Welcome everyone. Today we are going to talk about all the allied races in World of Warcraft. We are going to have a look at their racials, at their look, like customization options, and we are going to talk about their lore. So first of all, we are starting with the Horde, and we are going to have a look at the Nightborn, the close relatives of the Night Elves basically. So their racials are okay, not really the best, but let's have a look at them. So we have damage and snare nearby enemies. It's alright, the damage isn't that wow. The snare can be useful, but yeah. Summon a flying book that acts as a mailbox. It's useful, but it's not really game breaking. You could just walk to a mailbox in a city, it's alright, right? Increased magical damage. I think Blizzard needs to change that, because currently like a mage is benefiting from that, right? But what about a warrior or rogue, for example? Unfortunately, they don't really benefit from that. Resistant to arcane damage. Yeah, all races have some sort of resistance. Here it's arcane. And inscription skill increased. What I like about the Nightborn a lot when it comes to freaking customization options, they actually have face jewelry and stuff. What is actually pretty unique. Like, you don't have this on the freaking Night Elf, for example, right? And they are like the close cousins, you could say, to the Night Elves, right? Some would even say, oh, they're the Night Elves of the Horde. And what's really nice, especially if you're playing a mage, but also a warlock, you can add the luminous hands effect. That means your fingers are now glowing magically. Imagine you're playing a freaking arcane mage on a Nightborn. I think that's really cool. What's a bit weird though about their starting city is at Zurama, and it's basically a portion of the city that's not hostile to you, while the rest is hostile. From the lore, I feel like the lore is really interesting about them, with the Nightwell and everything. We also have like a lot of quest lines dedicated to them, a whole raid, so lore wise we can learn a lot about this allied race. I feel like, I think it's pretty well done. Alright, let's have a look at the next allied horde race, and that's the High Mountain Tauren, the descendants of Hun High Mountain. So they have racial traits: charge forward, knocking down enemies. I think that's pretty cool, like an extra stun, right? I mean, Tauren also have that, but they have to also like charge this, right? And reducing damage from incoming attacks. That's useful for tanks. It's not a super high amount of damage reduction, but that definitely helps if you are a tank, right? Increased versatility. Here again, this can benefit a tank, right? Chance to gather more meat and fish. I guess that's for the RP, and better mining. Now, some people say, oh, High Mountain Tauren, what's different between them and the Tauren? They only have different antlers, right? It's not just that, you have also like different kind of hairstyles and stuff, right? And they have like, I've noticed that they have quite a lot of things with like feathers, and this here with the totems. Like, some are a bit similar to Tauren, I have to say that, but I think it's cool how you can actually add some horn markings and stuff, even like the piercings. They are a little bit different, right? So yeah, it's basically a Tauren with different antlers and some different decorations you can add. I feel like their starting zone and their like capital city, I think their capital city is a really cool one. I think it's really well designed, and the tents there that you can find in High Mountain, they look like they look more modern. I feel like the Tauren should also get a rework with Thunder Bluff. Like, the tents are outdated when it comes to decorations. And yeah, I think the High Mountain Tauren, they're pretty fascinating. I like their lore with Hun High Mountain and how Cenarius blessed him with the new antlers, right, and stuff. But lore-wise, I feel like they're lacking a bit. I feel like it would be better if we get like more story of them, like more background, maybe some more prominent characters. I mean, Myla is a pretty interesting character, but she doesn't appear that often, right? So, yeah. Now, Mecha Orc. Ooh, I really love Mecha Orcs. And that's because I really played a lot of Warlords of Draenor. I was leveling so many freaking characters there. And I think it's so interesting how many Orc tribes you have, right? So yeah, let's have a look at their ratios. The first ratio is invokes your ancestors, granting you their power. What I don't like about this is, this one is completely random. I think Blizzard, it would be better if they changed it, where you can select one one tribe, one heritage. And this would also be good for the RP players, right? So let's say you get the blessing of the Blackrock clan. What if you're RPing a Blackrock org, right? That would be so cool, because now you can get only this blessing and RP a true Blackrock org, right? No, but seriously, because this is like completely RNG and you don't know which one you get, sometimes you're actually in DPS sims a bit behind to other freaking, in DPS scenarios behind other races, like the orcs and the trolls, for example. So this can be in some scenarios good, if in some phases you are lucky and you get the one you want, right? Then your DPS is pretty high, but sometimes it's the one you don't need. Like, what if you constantly get versatility instead of, for example, haste? I think that's not so good. Faster mount speed outdoors. This is good if you are farming. So if you are, for example, a herbalist, right? You're gathering herbs as a profession to sell them in the auction house. With the mecha orc, you will be very fast, because you can go from plant to plant in a fast amount of time with your mount. Pet health increased. This is not as good as the one of the orc, because the orc gets damage done by pets increased, right? And the mecha orc gets only the health increased. And in my experience, you are not really using the pets to tank if you're doing a key, right? You want your pet to hit hard, so unfortunately orc is here way better when it comes to Beast Mastery Hunter. The reduced duration on all poisons, diseases and curses is not too bad, I would say. I think it's okay, especially in PvP. It can be a little bit of a benefit sometimes. But then again, like, orc has resistant to stun effects and rage, what is quite OP. So yeah, they probably need to find a way to balance the blessing maybe, so you can pick the one you want. Then they would be more in line DPS wise with orc, right? What I like about the customization options a lot, and this is with skin color, you can actually select your clan basically by picking the skin color. Here, for example, you are the Laughing Skull, right? You can also be like Shattered Hand basically with that, because they have the same kind of skin, right? You can be a Frost Wolf, you can be a War Song, you can be a Bleeding Hollow orc if you wanted to. I think it's really interesting how you can, pick a clan based on skin color. And even their hairstyle is so cool. You have freaking the Gromash hairstyle here. I really like this hairstyle a lot on the orc. I think they have some cool customization options. Also, I think this iron ring looks not too bad, right? Like, you can already see it looks freaking cool if you are a mecha orc warrior. And yeah, you can be hunched or walk straight. Now let's go to the Zandalari trolls. Probably the most favorite allied horde race from what I'm seeing in-game. A lot of people are leveling up Zandalari trolls. And they are really cool and strong. Their racial trait that heals them, I think this one is really good on classes, for example, like Warrior or Hunter and Rogue, because Hunter and Rogue, they have a cooldown heal. So let's say you take damage and you heal back up. It will take a while until you can heal again. However, on the Zandalari troll, you can heal again immediately with this one, but this one has a cooldown as well. So make sure you heal yourself only if you really on like half your health or something with that. Now, Besiege Alloy to obtain one of the 6 powerful boons. In most cases you go for Paku, because Paku gives you that crit bonus, right? It's really strong. I feel like, yeah, like Warriors actually I saw on DPS sims pretty high actually on the Zandalari troll. But I think Hunter is also not too bad, and Monk. Death Knight can work as well. A lot of classes are actually pretty decent and pretty high DPS wise on the Zandalari troll. I think like this is just a very strong race. And yeah, reduce your falling speed. I mean, that was not so useful. The discover more gold from creatures is okay, but usually your main source of income is not killing creatures and looting the gold. Usually you're using the auction house to make cash in this game, right? But yeah, I think they have some very interesting hairstyles as well. I think this one also looks pretty cool if you're a warrior, right? They have some interesting skin colors. If you want to, you can even be a little bit of green, kind of like a forest troll. But yeah, customization wise, I feel like they could add like a little bit more. If you compare their customizations with the Nightborn, for example, they have way fewer customization options. I do love their freaking tusks. I think they look nice, especially this one. Even the golden one, they look freaking cool, especially if you have like a lot of piercings and stuff. And lore-wise, we had the Zandalari trolls even in the vanilla WoW days. The only difference was they had a different skin way back then. So the Zandalari trolls, they got a whole skin rework. And you have finally a male option for the troll that walks straight, what is really cool. Lore-wise, there's a lot of lore about the race, and I don't think Blizzard needs to add so much more lore about them. They have a beautiful city, Zandala. It looks really nice there. I love coming back there every once in a while. I think that's a very, very cool race and one of my more favorite allied races. Now Vulpera. Vulpera are very interesting. What I like about Vulpera is how they are a completely new, completely different race in the Warcraft universe. There was no Vulpera in Warcraft 2 or Warcraft 3, and the past expansions, they didn't appear at all. They just suddenly came with freaking BFA. But because they are such a new race, they are lacking a lot of lore, unfortunately. They do have some interesting racial traits. I think Hurl, a trick to harm an enemy or help a friend, can be useful on the Hunter or Rogue, because here again you have a cooldown with your healing skill. You have like just one, so if you don't heal back fully up or you take immediately damage after you have used your heal, for example on the Hunter or Rogue, then you can heal yourself. But be careful if you're playing Vulpera. Make sure you mark yourself before you use that skill, otherwise you throw it at the enemy. The damage is okay while leveling, but at the end game it isn't that super wow. It is definitely useful, but not that much. That's why you see the DPS sims wise on different pages Vulpera be at the bottom of the DPS sims. So I definitely think they deserve some love. Now, this is one of the reasons why a lot of picking Vulpera is choose a place in the world and make it your camp. I think this is pretty cool because you can have two home places. You can use your Hearthstone to get somewhere at an inn, and at the same time you can have your camp and also get there if you want to. So if you're, for example, farming, like you're maybe farming herbs or mining or something, you can actually be in two regions at the inn at the same time and just switch around to farm there. Now there's one racial that could fix the issue, in my opinion, if Blizzard reworked that one DPS sim wise, is take less damage the first time you're hit. What they could do is they could rework that to maybe 1% crit gain or something instead of taking less damage, or maybe 1% haste. If they change that, I think they would be pretty much average or in the middle DPS wise in the DPS sims. And this one is actually pretty cool. Your backpack has 8 additional slots. So in comparison to other races, your back cap is way higher. Resistant to fire damage can be pretty useful if you're, for example, fighting against shamans or against fire mages. I think it's the second best resistance you can get in the game. The best is, of course, physical damage, but this one has the Dark Iron Dwarfs. And when it comes to customization, I find their fur colors pretty interesting. We can move from brown to red to a grayish color to almost white. And I feel like they have some really cool ears, right? Very big. They look very cute in my opinion. You can also change your pattern, and this is basically also the background, if I'm not mistaken, where you are from, right? Are you one that lives in the forest? Are you one that lives in the desert or the plains? But one thing is confusing me. We have the patterns of, for example, the plains and the forest. But yet we don't really have forest Vulperas or plains Vulperas we see in-game. I wonder if in the future, and maybe that's a little hint here from Blizzard with the patterns, I wonder if in the future we will encounter other Vulpera tribes and learn more about their lore, because they are one of the newest races in WoW, and they have very little lore, unfortunately. So there isn't much you can learn about Vulpera, except for doing the Vol'dun quest line and going there. But this is the issue with like a lot of allied races. Same like I mentioned earlier with the High Mountain Tauren. a lot of the new allied races, they unfortunately lack the lore. Let's see if Blizzard will do something about that. In the last patch we did get a Dark Iron Dwarf quest line, so there's some more lore there. I can see the same happen with like other allied races like the Vulpera, but let's see. Okay, now it's time for the alliance. First off, we're gonna have a look at the Void Elf. Void Elf is a very, very strong race. They have some very, very strong racials. You can teleport through a rift in space. I think this one is really, really, really useful to get around. You can compare this to the jump of the Goblin, right? Like the rocket jump. Yeah, it's like similar. You can compare it with that basically. And you also have something that I find quite OP if you are a caster. Spell casts aren't delayed by damage. So if you're playing, for example, a Fire Mage or Warlock and you get hit, there's no delay by taking damage. I think this is very OP and often underestimated. Now become empowered by the Void. It's alright. Reduced cost for Void storage and transmogrification. This isn't really game changing. It's like a minor benefit. And resistant to shadow damage, you're unfortunately only going to benefit if you're fighting a Shadow Priest, because the majority of the damage is not shadow damage, it's either physical or fire. Those are usually the more common damage sources, right? And when it comes to the customization option, and this is something I find interesting, you can have the typical super lore friendly Void skin here. You look almost like you are undead or something, right? I always thought like Void Elves look sort of undead, even though they are not, but because of their pale bluish skin. And you can also make yourself look like a freaking Blood Elf almost. So for those of you that really love Blood Elves but want to play Alliance, you have an option here with the Void Elf, what is really, really cool. Now we also have, of course, the Dark Ranger option. If I unlock a Void Elf, I'm probably going to play a Dark Ranger one. And yeah, I think Void Elf here, we have to unlock it maybe this week. They have some interesting hairstyles as well. I think this one looks, for example, really cool. If I made one, I would go probably with Dark Tides. I think this one looks the best. It's my favorite one. But some other ones are also pretty cool. This one is also okay if you're a warrior, for example, right? But yeah, I think they are nice. I wonder if we do get some more customization options here as well. Because as you guys can see, some of the allied races have so many customization options, and here, yeah, it's like not as many. Yeah, lore-wise, their starting area, by the way, is kind of interesting. Like it looks really, really nice there in this void area, but I wish they would have an actual city there with like some very modern, cool-looking buildings, what they currently don't have. I wonder if they will ever get like our own real city. The Mecha Orcs, for example, they don't really have cities in the future, but you could say that they do have cities in the past if you go to Warlords of Draenor, right? But yeah, the Void Elves unfortunately don't have that. Alright, let's have a look at the Light Forged Draenei, a variation of the Draenei basically. Now their ratios are deal mighty holy damage to an area. This is actually not too bad, and if I'm not mistaken, if you're playing a Retribution Paladin, or so I was told, this one actually scales with one of your class passes, so you deal a bit more damage. So this one in AoE scenarios is pretty good on the Red Paladin. And this one ratio here confuses me. I think this one needs a rework because it's not useful, because why would you want to die to benefit from a ratio? So erupt upon death, damaging nearby enemies and healing nearby allies. I find this very weird because you need to die in order to trigger this one, right? And neither in PvE nor in PvP you want to die, because that means your team, your group can lose. It's very strange. Resistant to holy damage. I guess that's okay if you are dueling or fighting against, for example, other paladins, right? Blacksmithing skill increased, and you can summon a forge. I think the summoning of the forge can be useful if you are a dedicated crafter. But once if you're not playing character that goes into blacksmithing. What is if you're, for example, let's say a mage and you have herbalism, alchemy, or tailoring and inscription, then you won't benefit from that, right? Increased experience gained from killing demons. This one is by far one of the worst ratios because you're not often killing demons, depending on which time walking campaign you do. But if you're doing, for example, let's say Warlords of Draenor, or you're doing BFA or so, you're not encountering that many demons, right? So yeah. When it comes to their customization options, I actually think it's cool how you can be like yellow as well. I think the skin colors are pretty interesting here at the bottom. I think this was, by the way, my favorite one. If I made one, I would probably go with this skin. You have quite many face options. I like this one with scars or what they are at the eyes. Looks really badass if you're a warrior or something. There's some interesting hairstyles like those here. This reminds me of a bit of Hellboy or something, right? It's interesting. So yeah, if you are like into the RP and the like freaking holy fantasy and stuff, and you want to be a priest or a paladin and you want to immerse yourself more into the world of Azeroth, I recommend going for Lightforged Draenei over a Draenei. And you can also have some cool runes. Fortunately, it's pretty bright here, so you don't see this, but if you're in like a darker area, you can actually really see the rune. But let me quickly change the skin color so it's more visible. I think the runes are very cool. I think my favorite one was... Which one did I want to go for? I think it was Ardent. Yeah, Ardent looks pretty cool. And you can decorate your horns too if you wanted to. What is quite interesting, right? Now the tail. I mean, it's pretty identical almost to the regular Draenei, right? You can change the jewelry color if you wanted to. I think the golden jewelry looks really, really nice, right? Lore-wise, I think they're sharing almost the same lore as the regular Draenei in-game. Like I said, they're just more of a variation. But there's some interesting lore with Turelion and with their ship. I forgot what their name is, but they have some cool spaceship. And they're definitely a very, very nice race. The only issue is their racials. I don't think they have very strong racials, so if you only care about look and stuff, I would say go for them. But if you want to min-max, especially on like a red paladin for example, I would recommend the Dark Iron Dwarf or the human instead. Same for priest. I wonder if we do get some more lore of them. So I don't find their lore to be that much. Like most of their lore comes basically from the base Draenei and a bit from Turelion and their ship and what they're doing in Legion at Argus, but yeah. And now Dark Iron Dwarfs. I think Dark Iron Dwarfs are really, really cool. They're probably my most favorite allied race, and that's also because they have so much lore. But let's first of all have a look at their racials before we talk about the lore. I think their racials are pretty good. The first racial, the Fire Blood, is very, very cool because it removes harmful effects and it empowers you. And the more dots or effects you have on you, the more power you gain for a couple of seconds. I think this one is really, really OP. It has use in PvP. And right now, a Warlock, for example, or Retribution Paladin in PvP is very, very OP with this racial trait. And even PvE is pretty strong. There are some phases where you do get some effects on you. So if you're doing some keys and you have a bunch of effects collected, you go into your freaking DPS phase and you just use that, you're gonna do more damage. Move faster indoors is alright, but it's not really that impactful or useful. Blacksmithing skill increase and crafts faster. If you're into mass production, it's okay. Now the mole machine, I really love the mole machine because you can go to multiple capital cities. Like I actually use the mole machine mostly to get to Ironforge because I don't think there's any portal for Ironforge, right? And you have to use the deep tram ramp, like the train from the Dwarven district. So I use that usually to get there. And now the best resistant bonus in the game, and that's reduce physical damage. You take always physical damage by either light attacks in PvP, by mobs that light attack you, and often like normal attacks are physical damage. So I think this is the strongest of all the racial resistant bonuses, like the traits. Now when it comes to customization options, you have some really cool ones. I actually love how the beard and the hair is freaking burning and stuff. You could also, like, you have also some very nice tattoos you can pick. Like if you're for example on a shaman, you can put those freaking paintings in your face, or like a warlock. I think it's really nice. Same with on a hunter. I love this with the tattoos. You have very cool looking beards. I think from hairstyles is probably my most favorite one. And yeah, this burning effect. I'm not sure lore-wise why their hair and their beard is burning. It could be from some sort of corruption or change by Ragnaros, because the Dark Iron Dwarfs, they were enslaved by Ragnaros for a very long time, right? And they just recently got freed. And that's also how they ended up joining the Alliance. They're one of the more darker races that joined the Alliance. And they have probably from all allied races that we currently have the most lore. Because they are a race that appeared already in vanilla WoW days. And they have so many zones that they appear in. You can find them in the freaking wetlands, the Syrian Gorge. You can find them in freaking Blackrock Mountain. They have like a own dungeon and stuff. I think like they have so much lore. They might even have... Do they have more lore than the Whitehammer clan? I'm not sure though. Because the Whitehammer clan, they also have some decent lore, but maybe the Dark Iron Dwarfs have even deeper lore. And their new quest line that they got with 9.2.5 is a very funny one. I enjoyed this one. They have very cool mount. And on the hunter you get actually very cool looking pet. Let me show you that. Like you get a freaking burning hound. I think that one looks really nice. Yeah, it's one of my more favorite races. Now, Cultirans, let's have a look at those. Smash your opponents, stunning and knocking them back. It's alright, I think any racial that lets you stun someone can be useful in PvP. It's okay. Skill in all professions increased, what is pretty useful in a way, right? Because you have more freedom to pick one. But it's definitely not as strong as it would be on one race that just focuses on one, like here blacksmithing. I'm pretty sure Lightforge gets more bonus in blacksmithing than they get with in all professions increased. Now, resistant to frost and nature damage is something that's also very unique to the Cultiran, because usually every race gets just one element that they're resistant to, right? But they get two. They get frost and nature damage. Nature damage is quite useful against druids, and frost is useful against if you're fighting ice mages or frost death knights, right? Now, the last one is not so useful. It's increased versatility and heal a portion of the damage you take. It's okay, but since it's versatility, and if you're doing, let's say, higher keys, like often you don't want to get a lot in versatility, but you want to focus on stuff like haste or crit, for example, right? Or mastery, depending on your class. So swim fast and hold your breath underwater. It's almost wasted, because when are you really swimming in WoW? I can't think of many scenarios where you swim. Skin color, it's less than actually the normal human has, what actually disappointed me a little bit. I wish they had like more skin colors. With those faces, hairstyles. Beards. I feel like unfortunately Cultirans don't really have many customization options. I wish they had like more options actually. Their druid form is really cool though. I love the druid form on the Cultiran. Let's see, can we see the form? Okay, I'm not sure if we can see the form here. We would have to make one to see the form, but what I love about the Cultirans is They have like a very interesting zone. I love their cities in BFA. I think they, like Blizzard did really well with designing those. And lore-wise, they're interesting because they are like part Rust, right? Because they come from them as well, from their lineage. So they're like part Rust and part human, from what I understood in the lore. So I find this quite interesting about them. They also have some interesting looking totems on the shaman. But yeah, they're not really my like a race I would want to play, but I see why some people would want to play them. Like on the druid, for example, because of their transformation. Oh, here we see it, finally. Look at this cool transformation. Did you guys see that? That looked so freaking cool, right? Alright, next, the mecha gnomes. And I quickly need to move myself up. Okay. So here, summon duplicates to confuse your foes. If you're soloing or you accidentally pull aggro, this can be a lifesaver for you, right? Like, it's okay. But it's not really that OP, I think. Now, here comes the reason why I think mecha gnomes are quite OP, and the reason why in DPS sims they're pretty high. Increase in strength as you fight an enemy. So this ratio, this is called combat analysis, and the longer you fight, the more you gain of a bonus to your primary stat. I think this one is very, very strong. It's way stronger than 1% crit or 1% haste that you get on some of the races. So DPS wise, they are slightly ahead of gnome in some scenarios, but just a tiny bit. Also depending on the class you pick. I mean, if you're affliction warlock, of course, you're gonna benefit a lot, because you are building up your damage over time. You're not really bursting, right? And what's also really, really cool is you yourself are a crafting station. That means you can freaking be an anvil. You can cook with your own body for some reason. Maybe you have an oven in your chest or something. I mean, you're a part cyborg, right? So that's pretty useful. You don't need to find a crafting station. You're one yourself. You can pick locks even if you're not a rogue. So if you're a warrior, for example, you can pick locks. And the emergency failsafe ratio is also not too bad. If you drop low on health, like below 20%, if I'm not mistaken, you heal by 15% of your max health. So this is really, really cool, and it helps you to not wipe sometimes. Like if you're the one in the group that messes up and takes a bit too much damage in a certain phase, or you accidentally aggro mobs, this maybe can save you long enough for someone to react and save your ass in a group. Or in PvP, if someone tries to burst you down and you're waiting your cooldown for something, maybe this can save you sometimes. Now, one thing that I don't like about freaking mecha gnomes, and that's the transmogs. Because you have those arms here, you can't freaking transmog your hands. Same with the legs. Like, sure, you can do like a leg upgrade. You have two options here for the legs. But unfortunately, each time you use an armor, let me show you that, you're literally having something that looks like freaking swimming pants from the 80s, or like some underwear or something, or like some say diapers, right? So I wish we had the option to at least cover our upper legs with it. So kind of like you're wearing shorts, meaning that you still see the mechanical feet, but you can have at least like sleeves, for example, so only the hands are mechanical and the feet, and your arm and your arm can be covered, and the upper part of your legs. I think that would be way, way better. Now when it comes to customization options, you can have all sorts of, let's go with something like that. You can have some very interesting modifications. You can have those antennas here. You can have transducers. You can have infrasight, so you can see in the dark. You can have plated ears. This looks like freaking Mickey Mouse or something. Like, seriously. It's like interesting what kind of customization options you have. So if you want to be a freaking cyborg, or maybe like a cyborg warrior, like Robocop mode or Darth Vader mode, you can play a mecha gnome. I personally prefer a little bit more the gnomes, the regular ones, but this is because of the transmogs. But this race does have some cool fantasy. And when it comes to their zone and their cities, I find Mechagon to be very, very interesting, and the Rust Bolt outpost in BFA. Their story is quite interesting, how they wanted to reach their Titan form by changing their body into a mechanical one, but halfway of the transformation, when certain body parts were changed, they decided to find balance between flesh and their mechanical body parts basically, and they said, hey, King Mechagon, we no longer follow you, and then the Resistance was born, and yeah, we're basically helping them to unlock them. I think it's an interesting race as well, but very few play them, and they're maybe the least popular race because of the freaking transmogs. Because that's what most people are not happy with. Like, their racials are strong, but look-wise, nah. So yeah, guys, that's it for our review today. We reviewed all of those races. What I hope that Blizzard will do in the future is add some more lore to the allied races. I see a lot of lore and story potential with the allied races. And I think the Dark Iron Dwarf quest line was really fun. I think the Blood Elf one was really interesting. I hope more races, especially allied races, are getting new quest lines with the next patches, where we can unlock new transmogs or new heritage armors or weapons. I feel like, for example, Mechanomes, they deserve a heritage weapon set, like with a staff, some sword or axe or something, shield. I think that would be so freaking cool. But yeah, guys, if you are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. I wish everyone a wonderful day. I will see you guys next time.